our company and its development were a father and son enterprise, starting off as entrepreneurial chaos, and by the time of the end of my career, Fortune 300 status as a company. But we went through a lot of father-son stuff all the while.
In fact, your book is called My Father's Business, Cal,
Yes.
but it seems to be much more about how you evolved from your father and his business model, isn't it?
It is indeed about that. I went into that company to pursue my father's business, and honestly, I intended to take ministry into retailing. That was my quest. So my father's business means my father, the real Cal Turner, but to me it means my heavenly Father also.
Talk about that, because I understand that when you first took over, your dad said he thinks the business should be run like a church. And you disagreed with that.
He said, son, I think the business needs to be run like a church. And I said, oh, no, Daddy. If we don't do better than that, we're dead. I'd been very active in church work. I was familiar with church committees and bureaucracy and politics. And I thought, we have to run a company better than that.
So what kind of father-son moments, you call them, occurred when you ran up against sort of your dad's philosophy?
Well, I went into the business to learn everything I could from my dad, the quintessential entrepreneur. He was dynamic. He was wonderful. He was loving. He affirmed me as his son. He wanted to turn the company over to no one other than his son, Cal Jr. However, I found out that an entrepreneur sometimes is not a good teacher. And he couldn't explain to me how he made decisions. I just had to learn by watching. And he was an incredible study for a son to make. But he was wonderful. He started a whole new sector of retailing. Yet my dad said about himself that he'd never had an original idea in his life. Everything good that he knew, he'd gotten from somebody else.
And I know listening is one lesson that you talk a lot about in the book, and your advice to CEOs, the importance of listening. But what was it like when you would go back to the dinner table after you would have a disagreement about how the company should be run?
Well, my father and I had very few disagreements, and I attribute that to him because by the time I came into the company at the age of 25, he already knew that the management style that was his was no longer appropriate. The company had grown beyond that, and he wanted me to discover what the management style should be and what the management philosophy should be, and he was supporting me all the way, but it was up to me to learn it, and he'd be my #1 cheerleader.
You know, you also talk a lot about leadership, and I think there's sort of an undercurrent of integrity in the way you left Dollar General and sort of, you know, took responsibility for some mistakes that had been made at that company. What was that choice like for you, Cal?
Well, leadership is all about integrity. It's all about looking out for the welfare of others. And the company mission statement described the leadership that we intended to pursue at Dollar General. 2 words: serving others. It's not about me. It's not about my career. It's about the others that I can serve. And our company was determined to give a better life to struggling customers where they were, out in all the boonies of America. And we learned a lot. Yes, I learned a lot about leadership. And I developed the opinion that many don't really understand leadership. Perhaps management is better understood, but I think there's a big difference.